I'm Ryan Harvin.
And I'm Marsha Gardner.
And tomorrow we will be wed.
And we will have our first kiss.
I now pronounce them man and wife, and you may kiss the bride.
So I had just left Swan River, Manitoba, and had just gotten out of a rough relationship, wanted to get away from the whole small town deal, and then yeah, like I said, I moved to Edmonton. I lived with my cousin Kimberly. I got a job at La Senza and worked my way up there, and I also felt a need to pursue Christ. When I was in Edmonton and trying to pursue Christ, you know, I did all the Christian things. I did go out on White Ave too, and I witnessed, and I actually remember when I was working at the mall, I would go to work a half an hour early and read my Bible every single day, before work, and that was a good practice, and honestly I felt like I was growing in that time, but I did backslide, and then, you know, I went through a lot of turmoil, I guess, about just fear setting in my heart after I had watched a DVD. It was called True and False Conversion, I believe that's what it was, and realized that I just wasn't on the right path at all, and that if I had died I would go to hell. And I mean, no one on this earth is exempt from hell. You tell one lie or look with lust, which is adultery, anything, no one is exempt from it. And so, I mean, we all need Christ, and
All fallen short of the glory of God.
yes, and so I remember a 3-day period there where I was just scared out of my mind that if I had died that I would go to hell. And then I was going to work one day, and I called my brother Jeremy, and I was going to ask him something totally unrelated to my personal life, but he kind of asked me what was wrong, and I remember just breaking down and crying and just telling him how scared I was. So Jeremy explained it to me as if it wasn't about what I did or my works or how hard I fell or what I did wrong or what I did right. Ultimately, it's what Christ did, and so it didn't matter if I was evangelizing, it didn't matter if I did 10 good works a day or if I did 10 bad works a day. It's not about that, it's about what Christ did, and that's no excuse to sin or anything, because we definitely have to pursue Christ. I just simply mean that I was looking to myself for my own salvation, and that's absolutely impossible. And so he said it was when I would go and appear before God for judgment, that he would first look at me and then look at Christ and then look back at me and see his perfection, his sacrifice in me, because he died for me. And at that moment, it's just it really did feel like that song Amazing Grace, I once was blind but now I see, because my eyes were completely open, and things that I didn't understand before or didn't seem real, it just made sense. And at that time it did make sense that Christ died for me, and I was really thankful. And after that I was shown a film, and it was about it was called Return of the Daughters, and I really felt that God was telling me to go home after that. Return of the Daughters basically is about women who stay under their father's authority until they are to be married. And you know, it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, from just to see this is how real God is. When I was in high school, I absolutely hated being at home. You know, I was kind of miserable. I didn't really listen to my parents. You know, you do things behind their back, and you know, just a really lack of respect for them. And just to be in Edmonton, and I remember looking and thinking I would never return to Swan River. I hated that place, and just to have God change my heart and tell me to go back home was a big deal. And it was something, yeah, I just wanted to do, which was a complete turnaround. And so I went back home. I had known Ryan for only a month, but I just loved him, and he loved me, and yeah, we just had something very special, and I believe that, you know, God lined us up at the perfect timing, and so I ended up having to move home, and or I wanted to move home, and I remember having a very sad goodbye to Ryan, and a lot of tears there, but yeah, I went home, and when I got home, when I called my dad initially and told him that I wanted to come home, he thought maybe it was just a phase, so he said, no, stay where you are, you know, make a life for yourself. And a few days later, he just felt like God was pressing on his heart to call me back. And so he did, and he explained to me that like maybe he thought that it was just like an emotional thing, that I just watched something and then, you know, just was moved by it or something. And so he asked me a few days later, like, do you still feel like this, and do you want to come home? And I said yes. And later when I did return home, I found out, you know, why I was so needed. Like, my parents were both working non-stop. They had like 2 and 3 jobs each, and so when I got, and there was a need for my little brother to be homeschooled. So basically when I went home, I pitched in wherever I could, and so I took over the cooking and I helped with the cleaning, so that while my parents were both at work, that, you know, they could come home and food was on the table. And Jonathan, I homeschooled him also, and I did put myself back under my father's authority. And